All right, so we have successfully cut out, filed, and sanded both of our paddles, correct? So the next step that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to rip either our bottom board or our side board or our side boards. And what we're actually going to do is we're going to do both of them, okay? And here's the reason why we're going to do both of them. What am I setting up down here? What is this? What is the purpose of that? Who knows?
You mean the clamp of the board?
Yeah, the clamp of the board. What's that there for?
Is it at a certain length?
It is at a certain length, so that would be a stop. That tells us when to stop. That kind of allows us to feel when to stop. Now, we don't want to bang into it though, right? And do you think that if we cut your bottom board today and we came back tomorrow and we measured it out again and we set it all back up, do you think that it would be the same length? In theory, should it be the same length? Could it be off just a little bit though?
Yes.
It could, all right? So the reason why we're going to cut both of the pieces today, we're going to cut our bottom board and we're going to cut a board for our side boards, is we're going to cut one and then right afterwards we're going to cut it again. That way your boards have the best chance of being 100% the same length. So we're going to cut them both at one time, all right, or one right after the other, I should say, all right? So remember when we use this saw over here, I have my stop set up. I'm going to pass these to you. Remember our board. When we have our board, we always bring our board down and we make sure it's tight to the back and we just carefully bring it to our stop, just like that. In this particular board right here, I ran out of table, so I have to clamp this one down. Now if I had a full length board on here that was maybe 12 feet long, I don't have to do that for several of the cuts, but I will have to again. Our toolbox is going to be 16 inches long, so it's set up right now for 16 inches, right? Needs to be tight to the back, needs to be down to our stop. This particular one we have it clamped, but we need to hold it over here. Remember, we're going to bring it out, we're going to start it, we're going to go all the way down, and we're going to go all the way back. Who would like to cut their pieces? All right, got a pair of glasses on real quick? Grab those. All right, so come on over here, and we're going to let you set it up the way that it should be. So we're going to set it just like that. All right, go ahead and set up for yourself. Be very careful of that stop down there, though, right? All right, beautiful. Tighten that up. Looks good. This stuff. And we're tight to our back, correct? And where should your hand placement be? Yeah, very good. Go ahead and pull that out. So let's remove your one piece and put that right behind you. And what are you going to do right now? Yep, cut it out. Yep. Nice and carefully, nice and carefully. Remember, we don't want to bang into that stop. It sounds silly, but you know, we bang into it 20 times here today. It's going to move on us pretty good. All right. Double check your cut in your head, tight to the back, tight to your stop. All right. All right, beautiful. Go ahead and move that one out. So we're all going to do this step right now. That way we all have the opportunity for this to be at the same length. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to call you guys over table by table. We're going to wind up cutting out of this video here in a minute. We're going to bring you over table by table. You're each going to cut two, and then we're going to go meet at the table saw. Stay tuned. Alrighty, so you guys have all ripped down your paddles to the 9 inches so far. We've got those all the way cut out, filed, and sanded, which is very nice. And the previous step here in this video, we had went ahead, we'd cut two boards down. You guys remember the length? Remember how long we cut them? We cut them to 16 is correct, yeah. So we cut down to 16 inches, all right? And why did we wind up cutting those both at the same time again? Why did we cut one and then right after another one?
So they could look identical.
Say that one more time?
So they could look the same.
Yeah, so we had our best chance of making them the same length, okay? Because maybe if I cut one at the beginning of the period, and then I cut one towards the end of the period, maybe the stop had gotten banged into a few times. It doesn't matter if they're 16 inches or if they're 16 and 1/8 inches, all right, if it happened to grow. It doesn't matter as long as they're the same, okay? They're probably all 16, but we cut one right after the next, we had our best chance, all right? Now we just picked out our ugliest board, and we're gonna use that for our bottom because we're just gonna rip a sliver off of the edge. Now, did I have this over here when we were doing our last ripping? I didn't. And this particular setup over here, this happens to be called a feather board, all right? And a feather board is just like your fingers. Remember how when we held our project, our fingers were held keeping it against our fence?
Yeah.
All right, and our left hand stayed still and our right hand pushed it through. Well, this is the same type of a technique. All right, the reason why I like to have my hand holding a stick for the first few times with you guys is just so I can keep an eye on it. Now this time here, I'm going to replace my hand with this. And remember, our left hand should never move. It's just our right hand that pushes down through. So we're going to take a look at Bryson's right here. So Bryson, well, you got two really nice boards, but this one right here, we're going to rip this edge off of this one, okay? What's something that we need to think about when we put this board through the saw? What's something you're going to look for? Okay, do you know what the gap at the bottom, what are we actually looking for? What's that called on the board? Do you remember? It could be one of these options. It could be crown, it could be bow, it could be twist, it could be cup. Which one do you think it is?
Bow.
Ooh, close.
Cup.
It's actually a cup, all right? The cup of the wood, all right, the cup of the wood is with our grain this way. The crown of the wood would be with our grain this way. A bow would be this way, and a twist is twisted from end to end. So we're looking for cup right now. And what we don't want is we don't want it to teeter-totter when we go down through here. We want it to be tight on this side and this side, so we have it cupped up. We do see a space down here, don't we? Yeah. And let me ask you this. So Bryson, I have it cupped up right now, but I wanted to take this section off. So is it possible for me to push that through the saw? But would I be cutting that side off? Is there another way to push it through with the cup up to rip that off? Okay, you like flip it like this? Like this? Okay, yeah, so my cup's up and the piece I want to cut's off over here. So watch this here, we bring it right over, we're gonna put it right in. Now I'm actually gonna take that feather board and I'm just gonna give it a little bit more of a tighten. I'm just gonna loosen these up a smidgen. I'm gonna preload it. Loosens up a little bit over time. Now the feather board's a little bit of an anti-kickback too, because look, as it goes through, all right, it's a little bit tricky for me to pull this. Could I pull it through? Sure, but it's quite a bit tricky. So are you ready to go ahead and run this through, you think? Who remembers how to open up the gate for that dust collector right there? See that big white pipe in front of me right here? About chest height, big white pipe runs right here. Yes, sir. Yep, go ahead, Josh. And about chest height, you're going to see a little gate on this side over here. Get this out a little bit. Perfect. And Caden, do you see right behind you? Do you see that start button? Press that for me. All right, so Bryson, you're ready to go ahead and put this through. We're going to put our guard down, and I'll take it out. Bryson, should you still use your left hand over here to grab this? Absolutely. Let me see that board. We're going to move this one out of the way real quick. And I think you're ready to go ahead and do it. Let's go ahead and turn the machine on. So we noticed on Bryson, he was able to get rid of a majority of this side over here. All right, so that's pretty good. Oftentimes, especially with you guys in here, hold this for me too. We can't really pick and choose through everything. All right, it's like saying some people like the knot, some people don't. Sometimes our projects are going to have a little spot where the lumber mill might have nicked it. It's not the end of the world right now, but because we have, 100 of you guys, we don't have the opportunity to go through and just pick out the best pieces of wood, right? So we live with a little bit of a mix here and there. So Bryson, was that pretty easy for you to do? It is. So we're all now going to take our piece that we brought over, we're all going to run it through, and the next time that we cut into the video, we're going to be ripping down our other 16-inch board, and we're going to rip it down 2 times, both to 4.5 inches. So we'll see you pretty soon. All right, so yesterday we had the opportunity to rip down our bottom board at 9 inches, correct? So let me see one of those boards right there. And this is your second board, so this one should be over 9 inches, I'm guessing. And it measures 9 1/4 inches. So with the 9 1/4 inches right here, could we just rip this board right down the center if we wanted to? We could. Do you think everybody's board in here happens to be 9 1/4 inches wide? Or could they slightly vary? They could slightly vary, right? So what we're gonna do is we're going to rip 2 4.5 inch pieces out of this. So we'll be able to get a 4.5 inch piece out, then we're gonna have a leftover sliver, and then we're going to rip it again, and we'll get that second 4.5 inch piece. And you're gonna see there's not gonna be a lot of waste. There's gonna be just a real thin, fine little piece when we do this. All right. So let me double check this over here. Make sure we're set up good. All right, yeah, a little bit high, but that's all right. We're gonna set this up for 4.5 inches. And are both of our sides here, already trued? What do you think? Are both of these sides already trued up? They are. You know why I know they're trued up? Remember how we ordered the wood in the beginning? What was that? Anybody remember that? It was S4S. What did that stand for? It means it was surfaced on 4 sides. And those 4 sides happen to be 1, 2, 3, and 4. So these 4 sides are already all trued up, okay? So it doesn't matter which side we put against here, it will both be good. Do we need to check for cup of our boards? This one over here looks really good. So I think you're in great shape with this one here. Now, this happens to be still a decent amount of area for us to work with, but would it be really close for my hands to be coming down through here? It would, all right, and it's not a really good practice. So I can show you a few things that would work in this scenario, all right? When we go to do something like this, sometimes what people will do, all right, is they'll be able to run their hands down through here. Do you see how my finger rests right along this fence right here? Now that's something that I would recommend for somebody that's a little bit more used to using this machine. It's not something I would recommend for you guys, all right? What I would probably recommend for you guys would be to use a push stick. It could be a push stick like this one right here, all right? And let's say we wanted to run our piece down through. So we would take our push stick, and our push stick replaces our hand. It goes all the way through, up and out. We could use a homemade push stick, maybe something like this over here. Now this one over here I made for another type of a special setup that we had used. So this one right here I happened to use on something that I was running the saw blade through this. Do you see how it's been cut right down through here? So I use this because I didn't want to, sacrifice a plastic push stick or anything like that. So I happen to have a piece of scrap wood, and I made this special for that. In here, what we're going to do is we're just going to use a plastic push stick. Now, has this push stick here touched the blade a few times? Better believe it. And is this designed to touch the blade rather than our fingers? Yes. Right? We can always replace this. We can always make another wooden one of these. We can always buy another plastic one of these. All right? But it's a little bit more challenging to replace, a finger or something like that, or a hand. Now, this saw is supposed to stop if we touch it. We don't want to rely on that. We want to do it as if we had a machine at home and we didn't have that technology built into our machine. So we're going to do it the old-fashioned way, so to say. All right, so what we're going to do over here is I'm going to allow Matt to run his through. I am going to help you guys with this. I'm going to use a small stick, excuse me, and I'm going to help you guys keep it tight against the side. So Matt, you're going to run one piece through, and the piece that's left over, what do you think you're going to do with that next?
Ripping that one down.
Then you'll rip that one down, absolutely. So why don't you come on over here? Oh, one final thing I wanted to reiterate here. When I use the push stick, Matt, should my push stick be right against the fence over here? That's a really common thing that people like to do. Where should it be?
Should be like halfway over, at least on this side.
So you want it to the blade side of the halfway mark of the board, is what you're saying. How come? You're right.
Because same way we do with the hand. We push it.
It keeps it.
Keeps it on.
Exactly right. It keeps a little bit more pressure towards the fence. Okay? And that's something that's tricky for you guys when you're learning. All right, because a lot of times we don't have the skill quite yet to keep it really good and tight against the fence. Where for me it's super easy. For you guys it's a little bit more challenging. So we're going to focus that when we do that. All right, so let me come on over here, and the gate's already open. We're going to turn on the dust collector, and remember, I am going to help a little bit, keep it tight against the fence over here, and remember that your hand placement will be over here. So what you want to do is you want to push it until your board is on the table, and then you grab that and push it through, right? Put your left hand over here. There you go. All the way down the road. Remember, you want to keep the push it up a little bit. There you go. All the way down. All the way. All right. So then we'll take this one here. You're going to rip this one too, right? Now, I'd like to rip off that little bit of a knot like this. So I'm going to flip it over and put it right here for you like this. I'll help you hold this well. And the left hand over here. All right. Nice job. So we'll take a sneak peek here real quick once it comes to a complete stop. And boy, Matt's got two boards over there, and those boards are identical now, aren't they? Now, Matt, where's the sliver that we ripped off of the second one? Boy, there was no waste, huh? It was all sawdust. So we were able to really maximize that board 100%. Matt, was it decently easy for you to do?
Yes.
Does it require you to be thinking though a little bit when you're running down through?
Yes.
Yeah, it does, right? And it's challenging for us right now because this is our first year of using this type of stuff, and you need to respect the saw, but you shouldn't be scared of it, okay? I think you did a pretty nice job. It's going to take us about 20-25 minutes for the rest of us to do this. So we're going to cut out of the video here, and we're going to rip them all down through.